Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, I did just ask the live stream. I asked him a pretty interesting question. So, Jennifer McCormick is back on. She's back on X. She told everybody 3 days ago that she was going to, well, I guess it's 4 days now, that she was going to go over to this Blue Sky, this new social media platform that just popped up. So she's still posting on X, though. But she did say she's going to make the move soon. She didn't say, like, this is my last post, I'm going away. Like, she didn't say that. But I do have to ask this question. I asked the live stream this. Was it this year or last year, Morgan, that they created Threads?
I think it's been like a year or two now. Like it's still very recent. But I'm not even on it. Meta,
who owns Facebook and Instagram, created Threads as the direct competitor to old Twitter, now X. That was the whole point of it. It was a place that you could go where leftists would reign supreme, conservatives were censored. It was basically supposed to be old Jack Dorsey Twitter. That was the whole point of it. That link to your Instagram. Why are all of these lefties going to Blue Sky instead of going to Threads? Why are they going to this new network? How come you're not just going to Threads, an established network that has a multi-billion-dollar corporation behind it? What's the point of going to this new thing? I'm just asking for a friend. Jennifer McCormick, who got slaughtered running for governor of Indiana, she's still out there offering ideas. So she posted this yesterday. The elected officials who are working hard to destroy public education should have to hold 2 public forums each year to face their communities. Why? Jennifer McCormick, did you do that when you were the head of education in Indiana? Morgan, she didn't do that. That's so weird. Every community deserves to hear 1 annual money loss per district and county from vouchers. There is no money loss. That's not how it works. Number 2, program cumulative loss in money. There isn't a cumulative money loss. Why Indiana has no citizen-led ballot initiative regarding the voucher program? Because it isn't needed. Why should we have a ballot initiative regarding the voucher program? Oh, because you want to take away a parent's right to put their kid in a school that, doesn't suck. I get it. The legislators' own explanation of the voucher program money flow. Again, this is all very easy stuff. Keep in mind, she used to run education in the state. I will answer them in a second. The program's accurate academic impact. Oh, so is that qualifier, meaning that you don't agree with the data that shows that kids in Indiana and in elsewhere, by the way, but specifically Indiana, who go to a private school with the choice scholarship perform better than their public school counterparts? Do you not accept that data? Okay, there is no annual money loss per district or county for the voucher program. Here's why. You don't get paid for kids that aren't there. Ever. Period. All right, I'm going to make this as simple for you dumb leftists to understand as you possibly can, okay? It's almost the end of 2024, right, Morgan? Like, I can stop being polite and nice? Thank you. Okay, real simple. Let's just say you have Acme Acres. For those of you who remember Acme Acres, kudos, you're good people. Acme Acres. Acme Acres has 1,000 students in Acme Acres public education. One of those students has got a particularly talented dad. Maybe he's a radio host. He's really good at what he does. And instead of being stuck in Acme Acres, their dad gets recruited to go to a different city. And so the student packs up and goes out of state, out of city, to a whole new place. How many students does Acme Acres currently have after said student leaves the district? Right, 999. Because they don't have 1,000, Morgan, because the student's not there anymore. Well, Acme Acres Public Education got money from all funding, state, federal, etc., based on 1,000 students being in Acme Acres Public Education. But now Acme Acres doesn't have 1,000 students. They have 999. Guess how many students they get funded for from the state and the federal government now? That's right, 999, not 1,000. Why? Because that kid moved. Went away. Gone. Now, 100% of that money is now gone the following school year. It is now gone to whatever school gets funded for whatever school that kid is now at, okay? Acme Acres now gets funding for 999 students. And if 2 students move into the district, Acme Acres will get funded for 1,001. That's it. Acme Acres didn't lose the funding of 1 student. They lost the student. And they no longer get paid for a student to be there who isn't there. So let's say the student doesn't move away because their super amazing radio host dad got a job offer elsewhere. Let's just say Acme Acres Public Education sucks. Let's say the teachers are inattentive. They're not very focused on learning. Classrooms are totally out of control, too loud. The kid is constantly complaining about not wanting to go to school. They can't learn anything. It's too distracting. You start to notice that their proficiency scores are dropping. The kid doesn't want to be there. They constantly fight you every single morning about going to school because it's just a bad experience all around. Okay? And I'm not even getting into bullying or any of the other stuff that might be happening. Because frankly, there's other stuff that happens in schools that would justify parents pulling their kids out. Now, I realize that a lot of the elitist leftists who push this crap, they're all rich, hoity-toity, box wine drinking book club members. Sometimes you pull your kid out of a public school because there's a lot of drugs and gang activity at said school. Sometimes your kid is getting harassed by another kid and the school won't deal with it. So the best thing for you to do is to take your kid out of that school, so they don't kill themselves like we've seen happen dozens of times in this state. Maybe you just decide you want your kid in a better environment. Maybe you saw your kid's teacher on TikTok talk about how they're going to teach your children that they can swap genders every 10 minutes throughout the day, and they're going to teach them to worship Satan. And you're not okay with that as a Catholic family, so you decide you're going to take your kid and you're going to put them in a religious school where they're going to have your religious values instilled and reinforced when they're not at home with you. Because sometimes it's not academics, folks. Sometimes it's other crap. But you're not leaving the state now. So now what you have to do is you got to pull them out. Go, listen, we're zoned for Acme Acres, but Acme Acres is run by an imbecile and has hired a bunch of imbeciles, and this is a really bad environment for my kid. You've tried to switch classrooms, you've tried to switch teachers, you've tried to address any problems with other students, and the school, as is typically common in public schools, doesn't give a damn. And you're like, okay, well, if you're not going to work with me, I'm going to protect my kid and I'm going to put him in a better environment. So now, instead of going to Acme Acres, you're just going to go over to Acres Public Education. Now, Acres is 2 streets over, but it's a much better school. The teachers there are better. The test scores there are better. The teachers enforce the rules better in the classroom. There isn't any gang activity, whatever it is, okay? Acres is better than Acme Acres. So you take your kid out, use the Indiana Choice Scholarship, you put them into Acres Public Education instead of Acme Acres Public Education. It costs you a little bit. So instead of you paying out of pocket to put your kid into Acres, which is a much better environment for your child, there's the Choice Scholarship. And the Choice Scholarship will pay up to 90% of the cost to send your kid to Acres that they would have been getting from all funding sources to stay in Acme Acres. Not 100%, up to 90%. If the cost of going to Acres is only 70%, guess what? You only get 70%. You don't get extra money. If it's only 70%, they don't give you the extra 30% as like a windfall to go buy paper and pencils and crap. Okay, that ain't how it works. So let's just say going to Acres costs 90%. That 90% of the money that was going to Acme Acres for that student that will no longer go to that student anymore, 90% of it will now go to Acres. The other 10% goes back into the general fund. What do they do with the general fund? Well, then they distribute it evenly throughout the state. That's where it goes. Some of that will go into Acme Acres. Acme Acres will get a tiny little windfall. But Acme Acres didn't lose any money because Acme Acres doesn't have that student anymore. Now, if you still had 1,000 students in Acme Acres and they were getting less money per pupil, that's a loss of money. Then you can start talking about program cumulative losses. Jennifer McCormick, it's not like you're an education professional or anything. You should know about math. But if the school is not losing money per pupil, then the school is not losing money. Period. End of story. What they're going around and telling you is, we used to have 1,000 students, and therefore the state and the federal funding would give us money for 1,000 students, but now we don't have 1,000 students, and so we're only getting money for 999 students, and that means the education budget was cut by one student, which let's just say is $15,000. So our education budget was cut by $15,000 by those damned Republicans allowing people to take their children out of school and put them in a different, better school. That's not a funding cut, you dweeb. It's not at all how this works. Now, you're forced to believe one of two scenarios here. Jennifer McCormick, who used to run education in the state of Indiana, is too fundamentally stupid to understand this very basic concept, or she's a liar. Which do you think it is? Which one? There's no third option. It's not how it works. There is no cuts to K through 12 funding in the state of Indiana. Massive increases since 2017. Zero cuts, folks. Zero, zilch. Everybody's getting more. You're getting more per pupil. You're getting more per school. You're getting more per district. Everything is more for K through 12. Everything. I don't care about higher education right now. Everything is more since 2017 by a lot. Not a little, not slight funding increases, massive amounts of increases. She's still lying to everybody. She's still lying to everybody. They have no shame. I don't know if anybody has had the talk with Jennifer McCormick. While you're having the talk with Jennifer McCormick, maybe explain the birds and the bees. But while you're there, I would highly request that you sit her down, gently hold her hand after telling her that she switched to the political party in Indiana that allows women to be sexually harassed and covers it up. But then I would tell her, I was like, you know that your political career is crap and it's done now, right? Like, you don't need to keep doing this. Like, you can just focus on collecting kittens, or I don't know, what are the crazy cat ladies and lonely people out there collecting these days? Something. Pokemon, whatever. Jennifer McCormick collect Pokemon. I don't know. Okay? She can take up a new hobby like furries or something. She can come up with something to do. She doesn't need to worry about this anymore because her political career is toast. She got slaughtered by Mike freaking Braun. Think about that. Somebody needs to tell her, because I don't think she's been told yet. You got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. You know what? I forgot this, and I can't give you details yet. But this is a real thing that has been confirmed. It involves friends of mine who now have their children in a private school. They've had their children in a private school for 5 years. Now, they've used the choice scholarship to put their kids in private school for 5 years. You know what we just found out recently? Their old school is still getting paid for those students going to the public school that they haven't been to in 5 years. Explain that one to me. So we have at least one example directly where a public school is getting funding for kids that haven't been there for 5 years. And we only recently found out, confirmed by the school, only recently found this out. Because this is something that nobody thought was happening. And then all of a sudden, they started getting messages in Class Dojo and all of this other stuff about the students who haven't been there in 5 years. How does that happen? Now, do you think that that is a state oversight? Or do you think maybe the original public school is getting creative with how they're reporting to the state and how many students they have in order to get extra money? They have a lot of kids too, by the way. So we're talking serious amounts of moolah that school is getting from the state and from the federal government for kids that haven't gone there in 5 years. Explain that one to me. I would love for Jennifer McCormick to explain that, but she can't, but she won't, but she'll never address it. I got a question from somebody who was like, Casey, you keep telling us about all of these picks that Donald Trump has for his cabinet appointments. Who is he picking to replace Pete Buttigieg for transportation secretary? Well, the reason I didn't tell you that is it didn't happen yet, but it did happen yesterday. So now I get to tell you who's taken over for Pete Buttigieg as transportation secretary. And I've got a funny little soundbite to go along with that as well. Got more coming up. You're tuned in to The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Want to thank R&B Car Company, locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. So I want to play you this soundbite here from Meet the Press, and it includes Senator Markwayne Mullin. And he is talking with MSNBC's Kristen Welker. Well, NBC's Meet the Press. Kristen Welker. She does MSNBC stuff too. And talking specifically about Trump cabinet picks and how some of them are not qualified, which is the latest line that the left keeps going with. So I want to just play this exchange for you because I think this is good. I really like the way that Markwayne Mullin kind of handles stuff. He's a Republican from Oklahoma, like a former MMA fighter. He's the guy that scared the snot out of that union guy. And I want you to listen to this exchange. It's about a minute and a half, but it's so good.
About President-elect Trump's pick for HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Of course, he has said he believes that no vaccine is safe and effective. You have been on the record defending the efficacy of vaccines. Are RFK's views on vaccines a deal breaker for you, Senator?
No, I absolutely appreciate Bobby Kennedy taking a hard look at the vaccines. There are some questions that had to be made, and I appreciate some of the scrutiny that's going through there. I think Bobby can answer all those. I've had multiple conversations with him. I've sat down and had long conversations with him, and I actually find the guy extremely intelligent when it comes to this stuff. And some of this stuff does raise a lot of questions. But I do got a question for you. The Democrats are spending so much time talking about the scrutiny of President Trump's picks, and yet did we spend spend this amount of time scrutinizing Biden's pick? I mean, we can talk about Rachel, the Assistant Secretary of HHS. I think that's a pretty controversial pick from whatever pronoun he or she decides to use. We talk about Sam, the Assistant Secretary or Executive underneath Energy of Secretary of Energy, and the individual was arrested multiple times for stealing luggage off of conveyor belts inside airports. And I didn't see this same type of scrutiny that the Democrats used on these individuals' picks. There's been a lot of picks. I mean, we can talk about Pete Buttigieg. Is he really qualified to be the Senator, let's say
he's not. And I was on national television telling everybody, ha ha ha, you pick Pete Buttigieg for transportation, you're dumb. He's 100% right. When the Rachel Levine thing came up, Rachel Levine is a guy cosplaying as a woman, obese, Health and Human Services Director. The only thing that came up on that is people were like, oh, God, you got to be kidding me. And the news media, all it was is transphobic, transphobic, transphobic. Not a single one of them debated about her qualifications, his qualifications, their qualifications, its qualifications. Not a single one. I'm the only person I know of in all of the news media that analyzed Pete Buttigieg's transportation record. Nobody in the leftist media brought that up at all. Nobody. What did they do? First gay cabinet official, except he isn't the first gay cabinet official. Grinnell is. And he was under Trump. Then, of course, yeah, you do have the bald guy that wears dresses and stole people's luggage. And guess what? There were people like me who scrutinized that pick. Do you know why? Because they were dealing with nuclear issues and they had exactly zero experience in anything related to nuclear at all. So why did they get that pick? And the news media didn't care. The news media didn't care at all. But that brings me to the question that I got. Casey, you haven't told us who Trump is going to pick to replace Pete Buttigieg as transportation secretary. I think that it's universal that Pete Buttigieg has been a terrible transportation secretary. Now, has he gotten slightly better at it over the last year or so? A little bit. He's still terrible at it. He still doesn't show up for disasters and tragedies. I mean, really all he does is push electric vehicles. He doesn't really do much else. And it was the most disastrous first 2 years of any transportation secretary probably in American history. All under his watch. I mean, it started with the supply chain fiasco. So who did Donald Trump pick? Well, he announced yesterday that Fox Business host and former Republican Wisconsin Representative Sean Duffy is going to be the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. So this is, of course, causing the left to go, it's another Fox News host. Well, again, former congressman. Pete Hegseth, 20 years, officer, 3 deployments, 2 Bronze Stars, wrote books, veterans advocate, responsible for legislation benefiting veterans, 100% qualified to be the SecDef. So he served in the House for 9 years before venturing into the media. Trump took to Truth Social to release a statement on his choice of Duffy, stating that he will prioritize excellence, competence, competitiveness, and beauty when rebuilding America's highways, tunnels, bridges, and airports. This is important because everybody agrees that there's an infrastructure problem in the country. But also, Donald Trump has made it very clear we have ugly airports and he hates them. He despises them. A lot of what Trump talks about when he talks about infrastructure, he's not going to get all of it done, but he could put the system in place to help motivate that for future airports, future cities, that sort of thing. He wants us to design things that are inspiring. He wants us to design buildings and structures that are beautiful, that people want to look at, that aren't brutalism, which now completely dominates the skylines of our major cities. He wants things that are timeless and attractive. And I'm okay with that. I love that. I'm not okay with it. I love it. I absolutely love it. It seems like a small thing, but it really isn't. You know, if you look at the capital cities before the conflict with Russia, I don't know how many of you saw what Kyiv looked like. Kyiv was beautiful. It's a third world country, basically. It's like teetering on first world, but really a corrupt third world. Beautiful capital city. Beautiful. Kazakhstan has got a beautiful capital city, too. Kazakhstan. Morgan, would you thought that Kazakhstan would have a beautiful capital city? Probably not. I mean, I don't know for sure, but if I had to guess, and I don't think they're listening, so I hope I don't offend the Kazakhs out there. If I had to guess, I think they're still wiping with their left hand with no toilet paper. But they have a beautiful capital city. Like, you got this, folks, there are cities out there with countries who are way beneath us that look a lot nicer because we expanded so much with brutalism. Like, we build cheap things fast. But now we're building cheap things and we're not building them fast. So what's the point? We used to design our buildings to pay homage to the glory of God. Did you know that? And I'm not just talking about religious institutions. Like, we're talking about all buildings. Like, we're building something that is timeless because we are giving back. Like, this is our way of showing God that we're being good stewards. And then this communist brutalism nonsense happened. It's disgusting is what it is. So there you go. There's your replacements. You got Sean Duffy. He's going to take over for Pete Buttigieg. I don't think that Sean Duffy wears a breasticle to breastfeed his children. I don't think that he does that. There's proposed legislation in Michigan, sponsored by the Democratic House legislators, that seeks to remove the competence examination requirements to become a licensed social worker. If it is passed, Michigan House Bills 5184 and 5185 would amend the Public Health Code to eliminate the exam requirement for social workers at all license levels. Both bills were passed last Thursday by the House Subcommittee on Behavioral Health. Opponents say that such a drastic change would place Michigan outside the standards observed by nearly every other state in the nation, which may or may not be a good thing, I don't know. Michigan officially passed the social work licensing law in 2004, becoming the 50th state. I like how they said the 50th and final state. You got to clarify for your readers, right? To create a path to licensure, sacrificing standards and quality to increase quantity is not what vulnerable individuals in Michigan need or deserve, which is really weird for a Democrat to say, right? Isn't it strange for a Democrat in the modern era to tell you that sacrificing standards in order to get more people in is a bad path forward when they're talking about social workers, and yet they accept that for police, the military, teachers? Isn't that interesting? Did you find that? I find that to be interesting. Huh. Well, I don't know. Maybe it'll be a good thing. Maybe if you're not getting these licenses the way that Michigan has always allowed you to get these licenses, I don't know, maybe you won't be a crazy person. Maybe you'll actually be better at your job. Could be. All right, we're going to talk about how geology is racist, because that's the newest thing that's racist, apparently. You know, earth and stones and what have you. I don't know. Got more coming up on The Burning Truth. All right, we're running out of things that are racist. Eventually, I've told you before, like I truly believe that probably in, 30, 40, 50 years, something like that, maybe a little bit longer, I don't think that anybody in the United States is going to be a majority one race. Like, I think the majority population is going to be a mix. We all technically are a mix now, but I'm talking about like large percentages. It may be longer than that, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me. And what I've told you is long after I'm dead, they're going to be arguing, these leftists will be arguing over these racist issues that, you know, you're not this race enough. You're only 49% this race. You're not 50% this race or 51%. Like that's how it's going to descend into. It's going to be stupid stuff. Math is racist. Science is racist. English, grammar, showing up on time. All of these things have been labeled as racist. There's a laundry list that I have no time to go over right now. Those are just the ones that higher academia really pushes. So a professor specializing in inhuman geography, that's a thing, at a British university has declared the subject of geology is racist. Geology goes by another name in elementary school. Do you know what it is? Earth science. Earth science. You know, the thing that the hippies are always trying to get your kids into? Yeah, that's racist. He claims it's been unduly influenced by colonization. I mean, we did colonize the planet, right? So technically the study of the place that we colonized is, I mean, technically. Now you're going to be surprised by this, okay? This is going to come as a really big shocker for many of you out there. And I want you to prepare yourselves, okay? It's a chick who came up with this. It's a white chick. It's a white chick with really short boy hair. You're shocked. I know. You're stunned. Catherine Youssef, who lectures at the prestigious Queen Mary University of London, condemned geology as a subject that was riven by systemic racism. Says her name is Catherine, it's not Karen, but let's be honest. The study of prehistoric life through fossils is also branded as an enabler for racism, with the professor referring to the field of paleontology as pale-ontology. See what the pasty white chick with short hair did? Because it's about white people, Morgan. You're pale, white, pale, instead of paleontology. It's pale ontology. Ha ha ha! She's not fun at any parties. The Daily Mail reports that Professor Youssef, rhymes with, stated in her book, Geologic Life, that extraction of metals such as gold and iron had created hierarchies, pushed materialism, ravaged environments, and was the root cause of climate change. Oh, so digging up precious minerals to create electric vehicles is causing climate change. That's good to know. Good to know. Claiming that geology continues to function within a white supremacist praxis, because we got to use stupid words that nobody uses, because we have to justify our dumb haircut somehow. The academic referenced the theft of land, mining, and other geological practices as having led to the creation of white supremacy and a resulting geotrauma. Cool. Who owns most of these mines that she's pitching a fit about? Anyone? Bueller? That would be China. Oh, that's right. That's the other thing. Morgan, I forgot. Asians are white now. White leftists have now said that Asians are no longer a minority. Asians are white now. So Asians are Caucasian. See, I forgot. I forgot that the Chinese are actually white supremacists now. Professor Youssef's new book focuses on geology between the 17th and 19th centuries and puts forward the notion that non-white people have a closer relationship to land than white people do. Really? Okay. Do you know what the Native Americans used to do with buffalo? Now, I know Hollywood told you that white man came and hunted all the buffalo because we wanted the hides and stuff. Okay, that's a lie. Do you know what Native Americans did to the buffalo? You know they used to throw entire herds off of cliffs and kill them and then just go ahead and take what they wanted and then leave. Native Americans did that. Go back and actually study most Native American culture. I'm not saying that there aren't some that had a good connection with the land. I'm just saying most didn't really care. They did what all humans do. They manipulated the land to their benefit. And when they couldn't manipulate the land to their benefit, they packed up and they moved somewhere, killed the people who lived on better land, and then manipulated that land to their benefit until they couldn't do it anymore. Or somebody bigger, badder, and more powerful than them came along and killed them. That's how it worked everywhere. Yeah, black, brown, and indigenous people have an intimacy with the earth that just white people don't have. Really? Have you been to China? Don't brush your teeth in the water there in China. They're very intimate with the Earth. See you tomorrow.
Podcasts by Federated Media.